Hello, everyone. We're back. It's episode 10 today with Jess. Who's that girl, Jess?
Yes, it's Jess. Thank you for joining us for episode 10. Just gonna wait for Jess to log on, and then she will join us shortly.
Woo! Let's go.
Auntie Megs claims to be first. She is not first. Uncle Nico was actually first. All right.
Second.
Auntie Jess in 3, 2, 1. Auntie
Hello.
Jess!
Hi, guys.
What
What's up?
is going on?
Not much. I left the window open. I may have to close it because my neighborhood just is super loud all the time. So I'm fingers crossed that we can make it as long as possible.
Do you need to close the window, or are you like burning up? Do you
It's
want to
about
go right now?
99 degrees in our apartment right now, so it's a good time.
Oh my god.
So you want to keep the window open?
Yeah, that's what. But if you start hearing noises, I'll run and close it.
Well, it just got a lot hotter because your husband is also joined us. So
Oh gosh, he said he
that
wasn't going
guy's
to join.
really hot. I just but anyway, I can talk about Cody forever, but I don't want to get on that side tangent. Babe, do you want to go ahead and do your thing?
So, this is Jess. She is actually a former CBU alumni. We met through Auntie Megs. She's a water polo, she's a photographer extraordinaire. All photo needs, please message her. She's amazing, she's beautiful,
Thanks
she's
for that
wonderful. So, yeah, this is Jess, everyone.
Hello.
Jess, why don't you give us a rundown for the people who don't know you, a brief introduction of Jess and all things that we need to know about Jess.
All right. Hi, guys. I'm Jessica. Most people call me Jess because that's way easier. My tagline, I always steal from New Girl, where it's like, who's that girl? It's Jess, because I'm like the world's quirkiest, weirdest person, but I can't sing. So it's real. Don't ask me to do that because it's just going to be trash. But yeah, I am a full-time wedding photographer. I am married to the love of my life, who is apparently on this live.
Who's also
I went to CBU. I played water polo there and graduated. Didn't really have a lot of guidance on what I wanted to do, and just started like doing some friends' weddings and fell in love with it, and just love making people happy and capturing all of their happy moments and their love stories and interacting with them. In my free time, I play a lot of video games. I love The Legend of Zelda. It's like my all-time
favorite. What? Whoa.
Yeah, did you not know this?
Wait, you play video games?
It's in my bio.
Oh, wow, okay.
But like Nintendo, like I have played like Skyrim and like some Xbox games, but like my jam is Nintendo. I currently have Mario socks on, like we're living a good life. But yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, Mario song.
Okay,
I love it.
This just got really interesting. Oh, wow. Plenty of questions that can come from that. Oh,
I'm so sorry.
No, please don't
No.
ever apologize. Yeah. Okay, please continue.
Okay.
Yeah, no, I mean that's pretty much like me in a little glimpse of what I do. But yeah, mostly weddings. I like dogs and video games, and yeah, love Jesus. And that's about a short little paragraph synopsis of who I am.
Okay, so let's start from the beginning.
Okay.
What got you into water polo?
That's a great question, and I think my dad is on here, and he's really gonna love this story. So,
Dad.
Hi, Dad.
I'm pretty trash at most sports. Like, not like terrible, but like not good enough to do anything like more than rec leagues with it.
Okay.
So I played softball and soccer for 14 years and loved it. And my parents are very realistic about my athletic ability. My mom was kind of like, hey, like maybe don't do like soccer and softball in high school. And I was like, that's probably a good call. But they're always very encouraging about me swimming. And I wasn't a very good swimmer, and I didn't swim at all in before high school. I didn't like touch the water. And so actually my freshman year, I tried out for the volleyball team, and I made it, and should not have ever made it because I was like 5'3" and couldn't touch the net. And then my parents were like, hey, like you're pretty good in the water. Maybe you should try water polo. And I'm like, okay. So I did like the water polo sports camp, and we were a brand new high school and had a total of like, it was just the freshman and sophomore class that was able to attend our first year. Okay. So there was 4 girls on the water polo team in the summertime. And the rest were swimming, and like the rest were like, we don't want to play water polo. That's a manly sport, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, okay, cool. So there's 4 of us. We'll figure it out. And I loved it. and it was great because it was summer and it was something to do, and I was swimming and I was tan. And then I went and played volleyball and kind of like ignored water polo. And like I had a weird experience with volleyball. Like it was all right. I enjoyed the sport a lot and the people that I was around, but it was like a little bit rough for my mental state with everything and not being ever. I have never played volleyball a day in my life before joining the volleyball team, so it was wild. But I came back to water polo in the winter time, and at that point I kind of was like, maybe I should just quit and play volleyball, because we didn't have a pool, so our practices were at 9 p.m. at night. Like we would end at 9. I think it was 7 to 9, and it was like freezing cold, and I was like 90 pounds, and I would literally turn blue in the water, and I was like, this sucks. So I like remember asking my mom, I was like, I want to quit. Like, I'm miserable. This isn't fun. And she's like, I already paid for this year, so you got to stick it out. And I was like, all right, cool. But honestly, it's the best decision ever, because I fell in love with it. And like once we started playing games, I think we won 4 games the entire season, and it was like JV teams that were varsity, and we were trash. We had got more than 4 girls, but it was terrible. But yeah, and then I just like fell in love with it, and then I started going to club, where I realized, oh, people are actually really good at this, and they can help build me to be better at this. And yeah, and then my senior year, my sister decided to join water polo. She had actually joined the year before, and like she's athletically gifted. She's like amazing. She was on a nationally ranked soccer team. Like any sport she picks up, she just kills it. And this like, but she's terrible. She was terrible at swimming. Like she hated the water, didn't want anything to do with it. This fool quits and then is like, I'm going to do water polo full time. And she like is a phenomenal like water polo player. She plays D1, is like crazy good and like all American, everything. But like she came in and played my senior year, and we actually won CIF together, and it was like really fun and exciting, and it was really rewarding because people had been like, you're not good at sports, this isn't your forte, to like, oh, you're actually good at something, and now I can play in college, and now I can do this stuff. So it was a journey nonetheless.
Wow.
Okay, I was not expecting to play sports in college, essentially.
Sure. So for those keeping score at home, you weren't one of those typical protege kids with your sport. You picked this up pretty late into your, I guess, child
my
career.
Freshman year of high school I started.
So your freshman year of high school, you picked up this sport, and you ended up playing collegiately.
Yeah, it was a good time.
That's nuts. You are athletically gifted if you can play collegiately. So you're
just
playing
in the
collegiately. You're still playing collegiately.
You're an athlete.
Yeah. Playing collegiately, you play locally, right? Like at CBU.
Yeah, I'm from Orange County, so I was looking at a couple different schools, but honestly, at the end of the day, I think that because of my high school experience and because like I really loved the people that I played high school with, and I loved hanging out with them, but I really wanted like a Christian atmosphere, and I felt like the way that my friends in high school were living their lives wasn't reflective of how I wanted to live my life. So I went on like a bunch of recruitment trips. I got made fun of for being a Christian on a couple of them, which was super bummer, which I was like, wow, this is not where I want to be, where I feel like an outcast for the next, 4 years. And yeah, I was like, also, if you're recruiting someone, I don't know why you're making fun of them on your recruit trip for their religion, but I was like, that's fine. It ended up bringing me to CBU. I loved my coach, who was there for about 2 months into my collegiate career. He was great and like did a great job of recruiting me and telling me like what he saw for my future and everything, and really sold me on it. And I love the atmosphere and how close everyone is, and that it was required to become closer to Jesus, because I think I felt like such an outcast in high school because I wanted to have this like strong connection to Christ, but didn't have the opportunity to like have people invest in me and bring that out in me. And then I was able to go to like CBU and have that opportunity.
Right.
So that was definitely a selling point. But yeah, it was a tough decision because CBU is expensive, but it definitely paid off.
That's great. Let's backtrack for a second. So
okay.
Let's go and stay in high school, and let's talk about this budding relationship with you and Jesus and exploring that. But then you're saying that the people around you didn't necessarily pour into you. Do you come from a strong family background where where your family's believers in Christ. Like, how did you develop this yearning for a relationship with Jesus?
So I have a really lame start because it's like, oh, my family was Christian and so I'm Christian. I feel like that's like never an actual like coming to Jesus story because you're like you were born into it.
No,
No
every
way.
story is special.
That's a great story.
It's
Don't let anybody tell you otherwise.
No, my family's great. They love Jesus, and whenever we do anything, they always like turn to Jesus to like invest in to pray about what we're doing and everything like that. My issue is that when we were young, the church that we were going to, the pastor ended up passing away pretty quickly, and my parents and I and my sister decided to church hop for a long while. My dad's actually like was born and raised Catholic, and my mom is Christian, so we ended up finding a really happy balance in a Lutheran church, and went there for a really long time. So I actually like did like first communion courses and confirmation and like all of that stuff, and I loved it. But you know, obviously like got that the sacraments and stuff that were required by like Catholicism and stuff were extra bonuses for me, and I didn't really like I don't think I had a super Catholic view on that. But yeah, we definitely went pretty consistently, I'd say, until about high school, and then you know, sports and everything else kind of got in the way, and so there wasn't really like consistency with attending. But I like my best friend in high school, who's still like my best friend ever. They actually, my parents go to the church that I used to go to with her now and love it. And they go consistently, and it's great. And like, it's been wonderful for our entire family. But I used to go with her to a bunch of events all the time. And like, I think that just like solidified that I wanted a little bit more from what I was doing with like church groups and like bonding with other people that were also sharing the same ideals, and having friends to have like service outside of just Sunday service, like having small groups and having a community. And with my like Lutheran church, I didn't really have that as much. So I mean, it was there, and I was friends with a lot of people, and I'm still friends with a lot of people that went to the Lutheran church. But there just wasn't like, there wasn't a community. Even college, like my friend started a college group, and that was awesome, but there was still like 6 of us and the entire like community. But I guess that's an issue when you don't go to a mega church, which is what we didn't do. So
right. Okay, for sure. So you're painting this background where we've seen this in the past. Athletes are Christian and they want to compete at the highest pinnacle of their sport, but they feel ostracized because they want that relationship with Jesus. Mm-hmm. Luckily for you, you were able to go to CBU and build relationships there. Can you walk us through 4 years at CBU?
4 years at CBU.
Some highlights you have, some valleys that you wish to, you know, kind of talk about, kind of power walk us through.
Okay. Yeah. So when I went to CBU, I thought that, you know, coming from my public school with all my friends who did things that I didn't necessarily agree with, I was like awesome. And I got slapped in the face real quick because I was not that awesome of a person. And I thought that I was. And so I think that I thought my relationship with Jesus was like so strong and I knew everything. And then I showed up and I'm like, oh, I got like a really like weak connection compared to like what I'm being told that I need to have. And I think that was an issue with CBU, is that a lot of the time, like going, like at the beginning, at least when I was like, oh, my relationship's great, other people told me like, your relationship's not great and you need to work on it. And you're not really a Christian and you're not really this because you aren't reading your Bible every day. Like, I remember like being really mad at that comment. Like, if you're not a real Christian, if you don't read your Bible every day. I was like, I don't need to read every day. You need to read a lot. Like, it's a lot more beneficial. But I remember at the time being like, this is stupid. Like, this shouldn't have to be like a thing that I have to do to be a Christian. And like my friends, like obviously love them, but we were all going through like the same thing where, you know, you kind of question like, well, why do I have to be like this and this? And I want to say I was really rebellious, but like my sister and everyone will be like, you were not rebellious. But for me and like what I wanted to do, I thought that for the first couple of years I was pretty rebellious until just because I was sick of people telling me like about my relationship with God, and they didn't really know my heart or know anything. And so I think my sophomore year, after I was done with that summer, I went on a missions trip and with ISP, which if you go to CBU, ISP is awesome. I went to Taiwan and it was like super powerful and it really like changed my life a lot. Right. And I talk about it all the time, so I'm sure that people who know me are really sick of hearing about Taiwan. But it was actually like amazing and kind of like kick-started where I need to, you know, be consistent with Bible reading and everything else. But like, I think that the main takeaway that I learned from CBU is that your relationship with God is your own. And it's something that's been on my heart for a long time, because I just see other people put other people down who are starting to get into it, or are trying to learn and asking like not dumb questions, but like questions that people who are seasoned like are easy to answer, and they just respond in such a negative manner. And it's just, I saw a lot of that at CBU, but I think that it was also really good for me because I needed people to tell me what I was doing wasn't okay, and where my relationship wasn't where I was commenting where I wanted it to be. And it definitely like made me a lot more mature, because I was not mature at all when I went to CBU, and I was really dumb, and I focused on things that weren't really important. And again, they weren't bad, because I don't want to be like, I was a rebel and did all this stuff, because I wasn't, but I just wasn't doing what I thought that I was going to be super focused on going to CBU, and just found like other distractions and alleyways to go down. So I think that it definitely matured me a lot. And I tell my sister this all the time, that if I didn't go to CBU, I don't think that I would be a very strong Christian based off of my experience and where I needed God to pull me in the middle of CBU. Whoa. And like call me out. So.
Whoa.
That's cool.
And for sure you feel that way.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's great. That is great to hear. I want to ask you, your love of photography kind of couples with your love of helping people. When did the love of photos start?
High school, actually. I took a photo class, and I had the greatest teacher ever. I will give him all the credit for my like aspirations to be a photographer, because he was awesome. And he only taught one regular class. There was another teacher for another class, and a lot of people didn't like love photography after taking that class. So I got lucky, did AP photography, and then actually like went to college to be a lawyer. So I was a comm major, and then I was going to do the LSAT after, and I like begged my mom to let me minor in photography. And then it turns out there wasn't a minor, you had to major. Luckily, because I went to the school I did, my coach ended up helping me pay for some summer courses so I could really get on top of it, and I ended up double majoring. So
nice.
Yeah.
Cool.
But I was doing photography the whole time, and I like loved it. But of course, like I was doing like fashion photography and all this stuff, and I'm like, oh, these models, they're so gorgeous on my timeline. But like I loved shooting them, and every model that I shot, like they're awesome, but like you don't get the same. It's not the same storytelling. It's not the same substance. Like, it's just not like, you know, two people are madly in love and you're like watching them like flirt with each other and have a good time and like fall deeper. It's just like, you're going to put your hand up like this and then like look out into the distance. And it's their photos are majestic and they were wonderful people, but that's not my cup of tea. And that's what I was doing all of college. So when I graduated and, you know, CBU's Ring by Spring, everyone needed a wedding photographer. And I was like, okay, sounds good. Like, I'll shoot your wedding for like dirt cheap. I like, this sounds fun, and I like couples and I like love. So I did that, and it was really rewarding. Yeah, definitely rewarding. And it just kind of stuck, and I made a career out of it, which I didn't think would happen. So it's been a good journey. I really enjoyed what I'm doing, and like people are a lot happier. I actually was on jury duty 2 years ago for like 2 weeks, and yeah, I'm really glad I didn't become a lawyer. That was the most boring thing I've ever sat through. And it was like a criminal case. Like, it was like legit, like there was stuff and I was just like, this is terrible. No one's happy. Like, at a wedding, everyone's crying and like, you know, stoked out of their mind. And right here, you're in a courtroom and everyone's silent and you're like, when is recess? So yeah, I think that I felt in some peace with my decision on that.
That's
Okay. True or false? If it's work, it'll never be fun. If it's fun, it'll never be work.
Oh man.
Is that part of the LSAT?
No, this is not logic.
I'm like, wait, did I mess this up? Or maybe I shouldn't be a lawyer. I mean, I find truth in both of those statements. But also falseness in both of those statements, because I've had there's a few types of shoots that I love photography, but I don't love all types of photography. So I think there's definitely some is work.
Okay. Fair enough. Yeah. Or the one where they say, find a job you love and you'll never have to work a day in your life. Do you believe
I agree with that one a little bit more. I really
So
love what I do, so I'm not burnt out of it 99% of the time.
Okay.
That's so cool.
Did you have a question?
Oh yeah. I was just wondering, was there a point at CBU or before or after that you're like, okay, lawyer's not for me, or was it that jury duty case, or was it something not so much that a lawyer's not for me, but photography is my passion and I want to pursue this?
So my really like
And you froze.
a lawyer. It's not that I'm like, I love philosophy. I almost actually switched my major freshman year to double major in philosophy and political science because I just love all of that stuff. And I really thought that I'd be a good lawyer. I just and you're not a lawyer. But yeah,
No, I worked in a law firm. I worked in a law firm for one summer, and all the partners told me otherwise. So you and I got out. We're good.
Okay, good. So thank you. Yeah, I don't know. I actually like my like parents, like they're really supportive, and I don't want to say this to make them seem wrong because they've like supported me through everything, but they're kind of like, test this out and then figure out if you need to get a real job, because like I didn't know if this was going to be a real job, and I didn't want to spend all of their money on an education that doesn't provide any like money for us. So I did wedding photography, and it took off like pretty quickly, and I was making more money than I would have been taking out in debt for law school. But yeah, I remember coming home. I moved home, and like probably like 2 weeks later, I remember my dad being like, well, you should just go to law school. And I got so mad that I Amazoned like LSAT for Dummies, and I was like, I'm gonna do it. That book has still been unopened since this day. So
Yes.
I'm like, this is not what I want to do. Like, this is not where my heart is. So
Oh.
And then how did you figure out that, aside from photography, how did you figure out that it was wedding photography that your heart is? That's very specific. Not landscape photography, not model photography, not food photography or sports. We're talking about models, like a husband, a wife. Like, what made your heart go, okay, this is exactly the place I want to be?
It helps that like people making out in front of me doesn't make me uncomfortable, I guess. So that was fine.
That's awesome.
But yeah, definitely. I think that I just really enjoy couples, and I loved watching my friends like fall in love at CBU, and I loved watching, hoping that would be me too, and like everything else, and kind of posing people so that they like were with each other, but they like didn't feel like I was being like, now put your hand on their face and look intensely in their eyes. Like, I'm like, here, crack a joke. Here, do something stupid. Like, here, let's spin like we're on the teacups at Disneyland. And like, people were responding really well to how I was posing them and how I was like interacting with them. Also, is there any feedback on this? Did I mess that up, or are you guys good?
Oh no, you're good. We usually go through the whole thing. I write down questions as they come, so you're good.
Oh no, I was talking about the sound. Sorry.
The sound?
The feedback.
Oh no, you're great.
Yeah, you're good.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah, you're good. We can hear you loud and clear.
Okay, perfect. But yeah, I just really liked the couples, and I think that my heart is, capturing people's love story, and that every single couple is different and they all interact differently. Versus like I was doing 1,000 modeling jobs, and I just felt like they were all like, okay, we're just gonna lean against this and pose like this and do this, and I was doing everything for free, and there was no return. I didn't really like feel like I was getting much out of it. But like couples would text me and they're like, wow, like we didn't know that we could look so good until we started like doing photos with you, and that was so fun. And I think that just clicked, like, hey, I can like make people happy and make them see themselves how they really are, and they haven't seen themselves in this light because they're not giving themselves the chance to be vulnerable and goofy while someone else is like with them and present. But yeah, I terrible jokes all the time. It's not good. I need to work on that. I'm not really sure how that happened.
But you make people feel so comfortable that they're genuinely like laughing, and then those are the perfect pictures.
Yeah, most of the time, unless I have a couple that doesn't think I'm funny, and then I'm like, oh, okay, well, you can just stand over there, and I'm just gonna take some photos. It happens like once. The rest are good. Yeah.
Oh, that's great. What drives you to make them so happy? You use these great phrases where you want to see their light, you want to see their love. And if you're passionate about something, it's not obligatory for you to do something. There has to be this innate drive within you to make them happy, to paint this picture where they can see this beauty that perhaps they haven't seen before. And nobody's going to coach that in you. What drives you to want to do that for others?
Like I said, I think that my thing is that I really want people to see how beautiful they are. And I know a lot of people are really hard on themselves, like myself included. I'm super hard on like how I look, how I act, how I do stuff. So I kind of want to just put people's mind at ease and them being able to just kind of like melt with their partner. And I think a lot of the time, at least with like the engagements that I used to see, everyone's so stiff and rigid and trying to like, recreate some bougie landscape picture where they're like, models and everything else. And that's just like not what everyone is. And that's okay. And you're allowed to be you and be like in love with the person that makes you happy. And I think a lot of the time people want like, the model-esque kind of photos. I know people send me mood boards and I'm like, these are models and they're not a couple. Like, this is not how you're going to look. Like, you're going to look in love and you're going to look happy. But I think kind of trying to reinvest in people, like, it doesn't matter how you look, it matters how you are with the person that you love is something that's super important to me. So it's been like really nice watching people be happy. I hate when couples fight during our photo shoots. I'm like, please don't. That's not the atmosphere that we're trying to like, create. Yeah. This is not the energy that we wanted. Like, let's go do something fun. And like, I think I've had one fight in over like 200 couple shoots. So it's like, that's just not, I just like set like a nice kind of atmosphere where you can just do something stupid with your significant other.
Nice. Do you have a question?
Wow. I guess why would they fight?
I knew you.
You're
so nosy. I knew it. Out of all of them,
I'm so sorry.
I can see she's like, so.
No.
Why did they fight? Yeah, great.
I guess,
awesome.
I don't know. Like, whenever I get pictures taken, I'm like, oh my god, it's so
okay,
good.
But you guys are also the happiest people I know. I have never seen you not smile. Like, you're like sad and you're still like, I'm so sorry, I'm upset. And I'm like, you're so happy right now.
Oh
yeah,
God. Sweet.
Like, people get irritated. Like, even when I was doing my engagement photos with Cody, I was freezing and he was like, let's keep going. And I'm like, I need to leave. I'm so cold right now. So like, it's not like, there's some outside factors. So
just like little, okay, I see. Those kinds of fighting.
I knew that was coming.
What's the worst question I can ask? This one.
I had some hope that she was going to ask you anything else, but I know my wife. I've been married to her for a long time, and I can actually see it. Like, I can see it, and she's going to go, oh, the one thing that she just said. Why don't I ask just that?
Oh, man.
Well,
it's good.
I mean, there's certain things we disagree on. Like, one time, I was trying to get Justin, I'm like, stop doing this, stop doing that, like, it's fine. But it wasn't to the point where we would fight about it. It was just like,
I feel like you guys fighting is just you smiling bigger at each other. Like, you start like this and you're like, no. Like,
there's a lot of truth there. I am horrible at taking pictures. I can't pose to save my life.
No.
Okay,
and
I
my wife
photos of you guys. I think that's a lie. Actually, I know it's a lie. So.
No, you should talk to her off record then. Yeah, you should definitely talk to her off record. Speaking of which, a picture is worth 1,000 words. Right? Old cliche. Yeah. What makes photography so special? Especially wedding photography. When you're looking at the special day, and you have to do the cake and video and your dress. And
I don't do the video. I'm out of the video. That's not.
Well, I'm saying as a couple, everybody is paying for something, right? And they're looking at everything they're spending money on. And wedding photography is up there. It's all the way up there because the photos are so special. But what makes photography so special?
I think that it just, captures a moment in time. I look at our wedding photos all the time and I'm like, I didn't even know that our tables were set up like this, or I didn't even see like that I smashed you in the face with the cake. I guess I forgot that, but now you can like track it and be like, oh wow, this is awesome. But I think it's just, I'm really there to tell a story of the day. And as a bride and groom, and as like, since I've been in that position, you really don't know what's happening 90% of your wedding day. You're just focused on getting married. So it's nice to have something to look back on, which I always recommend getting a videographer too, because those videos are so good.
Oh, hey,
so good.
By the way, our cousin is an incredible videographer. However, he doesn't do weddings, but I think he's done a couple, and he's really, 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 really
all right.
Yes. So and if you need a partner in crime, and Nico's the cousin. That's the guy who surfs. He's really good surfer. Yeah. But he's also good at video too.
He does all the YouTube videos of you guys, right?
Yes.
He needs a little bit of a bump, though, in the right direction for weddings, because he's like, weddings is such a big thing. I think a lot of people put it up on a pedestal. So
it's
like
a wedding is a pedestal.
Oh no, it is. But what I mean is like as a photographer, videographer. Oh.
Yeah, I do video, like I partner with a couple. I did their wedding. They did our wedding video, Mike and Rebecca, but they're really awesome. And definitely I think that I'm trying to convince them to do mentor sessions, because I don't know how they film weddings. They do stuff and then it magically appears in this like cinematic masterpiece, and I'm like, cool. I have no idea. I like try to make like a 5-second TikTok and I like botched it. So I definitely like, it's a cool niche to get into, and I think that he should, because it's fun. Everyone's usually happy, usually, so it's a good time.
There you go.
Yeah.
Awesome. I want to switch gears for a second. I want to ask you,
right.
Do you have a story about a couple that you've worked with that were non-Christian and they were enjoyable?
Yeah, honestly, I would probably say there's a decent amount of my couples that aren't necessarily Christian. The beginning portion of my like career, I was doing all CBU weddings. But at some point you leave the CBU budget a little bit, which is, not bad, but it's just a different dynamic. But yeah, I pretty much accept whoever's, as long as I'm available. I chat with them and make sure that, we kind of mesh well or can talk about other things. But I definitely have had a few non-Christian couples. None that I'm currently being able to pull off from the top of my head, because I've been editing all day and it's all mush. But yeah, we just, talk about random things or things that we like and interests like that. And like, as much as, you love Jesus and you want them to love Jesus, I don't necessarily think that, doing their couple photos is the right time to like preach at them. But it's definitely a different atmosphere though, when you're actually like at their wedding and like, you don't necessarily have I don't know, it's just a different vibe with like the Christian couples and stuff. And I have everyone from the spectrum that's like, the super Christian. I've had like never been kissed before marriage couple, and I've had like everything else on the other side of the spectrum. So it's a good time. I don't really discriminate based off the couple. Just kind of like chill with them and vibe with them. And if you love Jesus, that's amazing. If you don't love Jesus, like I hope that you see like I love Jesus and the work he's done in my life, but I'm not gonna be like, I can't shoot you if you don't love him. So
awesome. And that transitions into the second question, right?
Okay.
So, photography has given you visibility and the ability to reach so many different people, so many different demographics, and build relationships.
Yeah.
Can you talk to us about a conversation that you've had with somebody that maybe you wouldn't have a conversation with? We always talk about relationships from circumstance, right? Like you have teammates before and you guys are all close, but it's a circumstantial relationship because you're teammates. So then now, using photography as your profession, have you been able to have those conversations with people in passing, maybe somebody at a coffee shop, where you've struck up a conversation about your relationship with Jesus and provided a testimony?
Yeah, I think that not necessarily clients as much, because I try to give them as much space as possible with planning and everything else. But it definitely, with some people in my industry that I've worked with that don't necessarily have a relationship with Christ, it's been nice just kind of being like, hey, like, no pressure, but like I just want to tell you my heart. Or like, you get them in a long car ride and then they're trapped, and then you're like, here's my heart. And you're like, no. You used to call that Bible jail with my grandma.
Oh, we're not supposed to admit that. That's something we all do under the table that we don't admit.
I'm sorry.
Oh.
I'm so sorry.
That's
but
what we use Sano for.
It's never like, you need to love Jesus because you're going to hell. Like, I don't, that's not my motto. It's just, very,
right.
I'm really sorry. That was really scary. I don't know why I did that, but it's definitely like, like, hey, here's how he's shaped my life. And like, he gives me a new perspective when I shoot weddings, because like, this is something that's super important to God, and he encourages. So like, it makes my heart happy when things that he holds sacred are, for at least my friends who also are in the wedding industry and work it, it's given me an opportunity. I wish I had more time to like talk about my couples, but like 99% of our phone calls are like, when is the caterer showing up, and when is the florist, and where do I need to be?
Sure.
And so it just gets a little bit crazy. But I have made a lot of friends that I've like done their wedding that have been completely amazing, and now I like love them, and we just talk on the daily now, and they send me stupid things and I send them back stupid things, and it's a great time. So
Oh,
See, building
that's so
relationships.
Yeah.
There you go.
I know.
Do you have something?
I think you asked me a question that I was gonna ask.
Oh, did I?
Yeah.
Okay. How do you how do you see Jesus working in your life currently? I guess like in the short term, like maybe like 6 months ago,
Yeah.
to longer projects and things. I mean, this
Jesus
can go
just
anywhere
actually, Jesus like slapped me in the face the other day and was like, "You need to listen to me." Yeah. So we're gonna announce it tonight, so I don't think it's a big deal. But we purchased a home.
Oh.
So we are actually like getting to go there today and like open the door with keys. Thank you.
great.
Yeah, it's you're in quarantine, you don't know what else to do, so it's like
So go buy a home.
Yeah. So we bought a home. But yeah, we were looking at a home a lot in certain areas, and our ultimate desire area is Tustin, and we love Tustin, and we wish we could live there, and there's zero chance that we should have ever been able to afford a home in Tustin. But we found this like fixer upper that we love. And when we found it by accident, we had gone to a house and we loved it and it was great. And then, but it was like in an area that we didn't necessarily see ourselves being in for a long time, or like raising kids in. So we actually like were on our way to Orange. I like made Cody stop and get boba, and then like, reevaluate our life, because this is like the 5th home we've seen in like a week, and we had been searching for like a couple months. And while we're like sitting in front of this home in Orange, Cody's like on Zillow and he's like, a home popped up and tested and it's in our price range. And I'm like, oh, cool. So we like, sketchily drive by it and like park in front of it. And we're like, imagine our family here and like all this stuff.
Right.
And then we like told our real estate agent, like, hey, like we really want to see this house. And she's like, oh, like I can't come, but like I'll send my son. And we can go. I think it was like 2 days later, they had like open house areas. There was 2 sessions of open house, one in the morning and one in the afternoon. And we were at the afternoon one. There was 60 people, I kid you not, that were walking in and out of that house with COVID. So you like have the mask. Yeah, you have a mask. You had 5 minutes to go like through this home.
Right.
Wow. And so we're really thankful that she sent her son, because he like told us everything that's a potential hazard in this house, everything that we'd have to pay for separately, like all the things. But like at the end of the day, he was like, this is a good investment. You should do this. So yeah, we wrote a letter and she got a ton of offers, which I was expecting. So Cody's like stressed. He's like, I'm not sure if we're going to get this house. And I'm like, oh, it'll be fine. We're not going to get it. Like, it's fine. Like, I wasn't even worried. And I'm like a super anxiety person. Until we got a phone call and it was like, you have it. And I was like, oh, now we have to make decisions. So we purchased it, and like fast forward last week, I actually like went over because we had like mortgage papers sent over there. And I was talking to her, and she's this like sweet lady who's lived there with her daughter, cancer survivor, but she like crazy loves the Lord. And she's sitting there and she's talking to me and she goes, that I had 10 offers that were above yours. And I was like, oh, and she goes, and I just prayed about it. And like, God was telling me, these are the people. And I was just kind of like, oh, God's like, Jess, stop having anxiety, because I'm going to figure it out for you. And like, I think that was just kind of like a slap in the face moment where I'm like, oh, I've been like, not, realizing that this was all in God's control all along. And I've been kind of just like, will we get this house? I don't know. How much money do we have? Like, will this be okay? And it was kind of like God being like, no, this is where I want you. This is who I want you with. And this is like the area that you need to be in. And so I think that was definitely, it scared the crap out of me. If I'm being completely honest, I was very, very freaked out when she was telling me that. But she's like literally the sweetest person. Start crying. I'm crying. I'm wearing a mask. I have to go to work. I'm like, okay, this is fine. So I think that was definitely like a moment where he was kind of like reminding me that everything's going to be okay and that you don't need to be super anxious and all of that stuff. But yeah, so you'll see the picture on Who's That Girl? It's a Jess, my other account, when we go to our house in like an hour. So it'll be a good time.
So it's funny that you tell that story, because that verbatim is our story. So
really,
we were looking at homes and literally same thing. There were multiple
you can't
people.
cry because I'm gonna start crying.
No, she's not. Are you crying?
Cry.
Oh my God. Okay, I'll be quick because I don't want to take up your time, but I just want to tell you how much this works the same way, right? So we had gone by this house, and the selling agents loved us. and Leah was pregnant at the time.
I was pregnant.
So she's coming in pregnant, and it's like this cliche thing. And we're sitting there, they're making cookies in the house, and everybody else is filing in this house. So we're talking, but then the agents and both of our agents stop when everybody else walks.
Yeah.
So when people leave the house, the agents are like, we really want you to get this house,
Like,
right?
We love you guys. There's something about you. This is just joy.
Right.
We
So
love you guys.
the selling agents are Christian, and they go to this church, right? The owners are not only Christian, but one of them was a pastor at a church in Corona, and the wife led a women's ministry in the church here at the house.
Mm-hmm.
So we told them, we were writing our letter of, hey, this is our offer, this is our cover sheet, and we said, we run a surf ministry, and we love to use the home as a gathering place. It's the only reason why we want a home, because we're blessed. We live in Huntington. We have a roof over our head. We don't need the extra space per se. We just want people to gather. And sure enough, same thing what your person said, she said to us. She said, hey, I had multiple offers. They had somebody come in 11th hour with cash.
Yeah.
Way over. And she said, look, I
prayed about it.
And
same thing.
Same thing.
It's crazy. It's absolutely nuts. And I think it's a good reminder that like God has got you. And you've done enough ministry at your house already in the short time that you've had it, and it's awesome. And I love that you guys open your doors. And you also have a really sick house, so it's a good time.
Thank you. Appreciate it. So we just sorry, sidebar, side tangent.
I know.
No,
wanted
it's
to
good.
say that.
It's good.
But that's exciting. Those are exciting times. You have this, and you put faith and trust, and I love that. So I want to keep going down there with the fact that you put your faith and trust in Him, especially now with COVID and just the way things are. There's a lot of anxiety, a lot of anxious people. How difficult is it to Jesus take the wheel and be cliche and just trust in Him? Because we can sing that, we can praise that, we can pray it all day long, but when push comes to shove, especially with COVID now, unemployment, the pandemic, everything, all the assistance about to dry up at the end of the month, you put your money where your mouth is. How tough is it to keep faith?
I have a lot of faith. I don't have a lot of trust, which is I'm so bad at it. And I know that I need to be good, but God is good, and He's reminded me enough times, like, forget it, Jess, I got you, like, calm down. I'm the queen of anxiety is how I describe it, because I have it all the time. I'm like, if you ever do the Enneagram, I'm like a 6, which is like fear-based completely. But yeah, I definitely like think that in this time, a lot of praying, a lot of turning to God and being like, I don't know what to do. And especially with like all of my weddings rescheduling for a long time, that was very stressful. Because that's like my only income. So when people don't get married, I don't have money. And then they take I'm happy. I'm super happy that they're rescheduling till 2021 because it's your day and it should be like that. But they do take income away from 2021 brides who now want to pay a deposit and do stuff like that. So it definitely, I was really stoked at the beginning because this was supposed to be like a good record year. I'm like, we're going to buy a house. We're going to have lots of money. It'll be great. And then like COVID hit. I'm like, oh, okay. But again, like just with how my brides have like reacted and how my like couples have like come together to work with me and to talk with me, and like there's been lots of tearful conversations about just like it's more than just me taking photos of someone on their wedding day, but it's like we are now friends and we don't want anyone else to capture it because we love you and your personality and we only feel comfortable with you. And it's been like very emotional because it's made me realize like I'm not just a wedding photographer, like I'm investing in these people and I'm part of these people's lives, and they want me there just as much as they'd want some other guest, which I don't think I ever realized until we needed to reschedule and we needed to figure out things, and I needed to be present for them when they needed me most and they needed to be present for me, kind of thing. So I definitely think that God has been super faithful and like reminding me to trust Him in this time. For me, it's just, I have a lot of anxiety and I feel like I can handle things on my own, and I 100% can't. But like, I can't do this by myself, and I definitely need to turn to God. And I think that He's done a good job of being like, stop, Jessica, I got this. And I like need that all the time. Like I need constant reminders of it, which is dumb because I know it's there and I know it's present. But when I'm starting to freak out, I have a hard time being like, everything's fine. This is good.
Yeah.
Sure. Amen. Absolutely. I'm actually going to refer to your ridiculously good-looking husband, Cody, and ask this question. How do you and your husband, who's really, really good looking, how do you guys navigate those valleys together? It seems like you have a very strong marriage.
Yeah, well, we've been married for like, oh gosh, 11 months. We're almost at a year. But we've been together for like 5 years, or 4.5. We've been together for a long time. But I definitely think that it's made me, like, again, I'm super used to being able to handle everything and do everything on my own. And I think that it's really showed me, like, it's okay to be vulnerable and to, like, lean on Cody when I need him. Because if we're being real, he's, like, the most stable person. He's got the stable job. He's got, like, the 9 to 5 that he does every day. Like, it's the most consistent. He's always there whenever you need him. And I think that a lot of the time, like, with this is that, you know, anxiety's gotten the best of me and I've broken down and been sad. And I'm used to, you know, bringing in a certain amount of income and that not happening. I like need to be okay with relying on Cody, and like I'm more than okay with relying on Cody, but I have a hard time like myself being like, this is all on you. Like, I don't like that. Right. And I think that it's definitely been a transition with, you know, us never, like, we also like never saw each other during the week. And then like I would be gone every weekend shooting a wedding, and he works in LA. So like coming home in 2 hours of traffic made it really hard to spend like 3 hours together, and then he goes to sleep. So sure. The pandemic was nice because we had a lot of time to spend together. Now we might have too much time, but it's fine. But I think that it was super nice because I was like, hey, like I really long for like time, like quality time with you, and we don't really have that. So that was nice. And then also being able to like rely on Cody and to really like put my trust in him and know that he's going to make everything okay and be okay, and I don't have to be responsible for everything, was a big burden that like lifted off my shoulders. And again, it shouldn't have been there in the first place because Cody's always been stable and consistent and amazing. But I've just had a very hard time being like, this is my responsibility and I'm not like letting go of it, kind of thing. So
sure, absolutely. That is the silver lining of COVID, is it not? The fact that things have shut down due to that circumstance, but it's given us the ability to do things like this where you can still maintain relationships. And then obviously with your spouse and couples, you can, whoa, hey.
Yeah, you guys had a baby at the right time too.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, that was pretty, God's timing is nuts between the house and the baby and just how everything works. Yeah, God's timing is just so nuts. So I don't know. I just think it's one of those things where when we talk to non-Christians, and maybe you can give us some insight here, there's always the anxiety of not knowing where things come from, right? Like, my help comes from the Lord above, right? Hold on, baby, hold on. But with our other non-Christian friends, they talk about timing. They talk about, well, I need to get things within a certain amount of time. If it doesn't fall under this window, like buying a home, right? If I don't buy a home during this time, it's going to be much harder. And then we always respond with, well, pray and then trust God's timing. But it doesn't resonate with them.
Yeah.
They're not Christian. Have you had conversations like that before with your non-Christian friends?
Yeah, I definitely have. And I think it's like, honestly, like, I think it happens a lot more with like my actual friends than it does with like clients and things. Obviously, like, this is a hard time, but like most of my clients that have been like dealing with things have been very Christian. So they're like, you know, it's in God's timing. Like, we'll get married when God wants us to get married, kind of thing, or they'll elope and then just be like, the celebration will happen later. But yeah, I think it's hard because there's a peace that you have knowing that God's in control of your life. And like, my sister has gotten a lot more into the Bible and a lot more into like stuff. So it's nice having conversations with her because she has like a lot more questions that make you actually think like, oh, okay, like, how do I respond to this in my life, and how do I do this with my life, like trusting in God? And it's really hard to do that. I think that I'm completely off topic now with the question or the answer to the question, but I think it's ultimately a peace thing, and nothing's ever going to happen in your time. I've learned that the hard way. I had a timeline of things that wanted to happen, and I've blown past it a couple years at this point. But knowing that, like, you know, God has a plan for me and I'm still on his timeline and I'm still going to end up where he needs me to be. I think he's put me in a lot of situations where I never thought I would be in those situations, but now I'm able to like be used for him. And that brings a little bit of peace that I like, you know, obviously my timeline didn't work out, but I think that it brings on like more anxiety and more depression when you don't have that feeling that you're where you need to be because you don't have God in your life guiding you. And I think that that's really hard and really difficult to cope with. And I know for me, like I would not be able to cope with that. So I want to talk about Jesus, and I want to share Jesus because I want people to be happy and know that their life has purpose, and it's not, you know, that what's happening to them isn't just happening to them because they're unlucky. Like there's a reason for it. But again, you know, not everyone's gonna listen to that and they can be like, oh, I'm just an unlucky person. And I'm like, oh yeah, same, but it's okay. So.
Sure, absolutely. My daughter is trying to get in on this conversation. I apologize. She's
No, you're
wants
good.
to talk to Auntie Jess. So when you have a kid, kids usually want to talk and get in on this thing. Hold on. Do you want to come over here and finish up with Jess?
Living a good life.
Okay.
So Justin and I always talk about, how we're like, every year you have new people come into your life, right? Like,
Yeah.
You as a wedding photographer, you meet these amazing people who are in love, and they bond with you so tightly over, you know, taking pictures and whatever, and sometimes your relationship with God or whatnot, sometimes not always, but if you have, like, 200 weddings, you said, let's just say you did, like, 200 weddings. If you had 200 close friends, like, or people that you built a relationship with, how do you talk to them still after, like, so many years of...
Yeah, so I have some lifers, which is what I call them, where
Nice.
we do like engagement and then like wedding and then like baby photos and then like family photos later down the line. So I think that I'm like a lot closer to those people because I see them all the time and like I've been with them through so many things. Like for example, my assistant coach for water polo, like I did her engagement photos and her wedding, and like she just had a baby, so I did those, and I've done her sister's wedding and I've done like family photos. So it's just like, you know, like I felt like part of their family and the closeness with them. But yeah, I'm actually a super introvert. I know it doesn't seem like that, but I normally like hate people and I just sit in my room all day and watch Netflix, which is not great as a wedding photographer. But it's like my way to recharge. So I definitely could be better about reaching out to people and checking in, but Instagram's been a great tool to follow all of my brides' lives and they're my couple's lives, and like seeing them get pregnant and have kids and like, you know, or go on extravagant vacations and travel the world. Like it's been a good tool to like talk to them and ask how your life's going and like how's marriage, and like I'm so happy for you guys in all these walks of life. And definitely being able to photograph friends or photograph other people that they know, and seeing them like in life. I catch up with them all the time. Like I love CBU weddings, but I hate it because I know everyone. I will sit there and I will talk to everyone, and I like forget to eat dinner, and I'm sitting there and I'm like, oh, I have like 4 more hours of work and I haven't eaten in 15 hours. So I'm like, this is fine. But not really 15 hours, probably like 6. But yeah, I'm like, oh, okay. This, like, I love talking to people and catching up and investing in their lives, but I just do a very bad job when I'm by myself and I'm introverting.
Oh my gosh. Well, you don't seem very introverted to us.
I know. I do a good job of selling. I'm an introverted extrovert. I don't know if that makes sense.
I like that.
Totally.
That
Makes sense.
Yeah. People
Jess,
make
we're
me
gonna run out of time.
all good.
What did you say? Oh,
we're gonna run out of time, so we should close up shop here.
Yeah.
Jess, thank you for joining us again. She is an incredible photographer. Her husband is like ridiculously nice too. We had the pleasure of surfing.
They're both amazing.
With her
I thought he was gonna say hot
husband,
and then like fangirl over my husband, so it was a good time.
her husband's great too. But if you need photography, this is not just limited to wedding photography. She also does life photography too. So if you do the weddings, and she can do the engagement, she can do the baby photography. All these things. These are all good things. You want to go to mommy while I close this up? Please, please, please follow Jess. We will link Jess in the post that's coming on the YouTube, all those things. If you have any questions, please let us know. You can always message Jess as well. Jess is always around us, whether we're going surfing or we're getting pictures too. When we get our first year photos, we're probably going to go with Jess because her eye is ridiculously good.
Maybe we'll see, because Megan's here to run my
with?
money right now. So
we love you.
You have anything to close with?
I do see a question that says, do I teach photography? I do. I have mentor sessions that are available. But thank you so much for the plug. That was like super nice. You guys didn't have to do that.
Wow.
But,
you're good.
Sessions are awesome. They're like amazing. And if you're coming from my profile, like follow them. They're literally the nicest people. And I've never seen them have any emotion other than extreme joy. So
Oh,
you need some cheerfulness in your life, they're for sure it.
I appreciate you. Jess, thank you. This was a pleasure. We apologize that our baby is starting to talk so much, but
She's loud.
No,
since
I love
she's
it.
loud, can you just say hi, say hi to Auntie Jess and bye to Auntie Jess? Because if you're gonna just talk, okay? Say hi and bye. Hi,
I
Auntie
saw
Jess. Bye,
like
Auntie
last
Jess.
month, she's already so much bigger.
All right,
She's
she
6
got
months.
very much bigger. Oh my goodness, that is our cue. Jess, thank you so much. We appreciate you guys. Just any questions, DM us or Jess. We'll see you guys later.
Perfect.
Jess, thank you.
Thanks for having
Thank
me.
you. We love you, Jess.
Love you too. Bye, guys.
Bye,
Bye, Auntie.
Auntie.